Hey gorgeous, it's Denise here from Lucky Bitch, and I've got a juicy question for you today. Have you ever thought about going into business with your best friend? After all, maybe you've known her for years and together you could make millions, right? Well, maybe. Let's unpack this juicy topic now to see if you're onto a winning idea or if you're about to make the biggest mistake of your life and business. If you're tempted to go into business with your best friend right now, you're not alone. In my 20s, I almost started a dating coaching company with my bestie because we'd meet up for lunch to bitch about our day jobs and dream about doing something different. It can seem like such a great idea, especially over a glass of wine. I mean, you love each other, you have a ton of fun together, so surely going into business with each other is a no-brainer, right? Wrong. Hate to break it to you, but most of the time, going into business with your best friend is not a recipe for success. Now, don't get me wrong, there are definitely a few amazing success stories of best friends who have made it as entrepreneurs together. But for every success story, there are far more cautionary tales of friendships lost pretty much forever by the pressures of mixing friendship and business. You have to be very careful about how you set things up to ensure your success and make sure your friendship lasts beyond that normal roller coaster of entrepreneurship. So here's a checklist for you to go through to make sure you're on the right track. First up, just be honest with yourself. And I want you to ask, do you really want to have a business partner? Is it because you're scared to do it alone? Do you think you'd only be successful if you had a partner kind of pushing you along? If this is your main reason to start a business with a friend, you need to snap out of it fast, especially if you do end up going into business together. Now, business requires you to be self-motivated, and yes, it's really nice to have someone holding your hand, but you have to give yourself permission to be successful on your own merits. Otherwise, your blocks could derail your business and probably your friendship as well. Second, this is obvious, but decide who will do what. It's best to do a lot of talking before going into business together, and not just over cocktails and wine, because when you talk it over, you really need to decide who will do what in the business, and you've got to decide on a fair distribution of tasks and make sure that nobody gets all the crappy jobs. How many hours do you each have available to put into the business? And you've got to consider lifestyle factors like family commitments, side gigs, working preferences, etc. Because I've seen a lot of business partnerships derailed by unrealistic or more likely unspoken expectations. And third, what are your strengths and weaknesses, and do they complement each other? And if you do decide to take the plunge, it's best to be prepared and know your personality types and how they mesh together. So I recommend doing a bunch of personal and business personality tests so you know how your working styles or communications could go together, or even things like your love language and how they could trigger each other. Now, I actually even have a special money personality quiz for you so you can see how you could complement or trigger each other. Because if your energy and ambition match, well, it could be a real sweet spot to go for it. But if you're kind of raring to go and your bestie is a slow and steady type, you might have a bit of a clash of ambitions that kind of frustrate you both. The best thing to do is to talk about it and be really incredibly honest about how that would work in a practical sense. Next, you might need to decide who will be the face of the business. And this can be a hard one because a lot of businesses do need somebody to be the public face of them. And some people are more kind of behind the scenes, which works well if one person's an introvert and one person's an extrovert. But if you both want to be the star of the show, then you just need to make sure you get enough airtime. Like you could appear in promos together, you could split up interview responsibilities, and then you could hire other people to delegate the behind the scenes responsibilities to. But if neither of you want to, well, maybe you could do something creative, like you could create a cartoon avatar to be the star of your business, like Grammar Girl. Or you could focus on your product rather than the personalities behind the business. Now, let's get legal. Oh, this seems really boring, but there really are a million nitty-gritty details to sort out before you go into business. Things like, how much money do you need to get started? Really? Right, really. You might not need that big website. And who's going to put it in? Who's going to put the money in? What's the ownership structure? How are you going to split the profits? How are you going to decide on purchases you need to make? And who is going to own the intellectual property of the business if you decide to separate? And what happens if you make like $100 gazillion together? Like, what will happen if you need to shut down the business? How will you end it if one person wants to get out? Getting all that formal kind of boring stuff sorted out with legal contracts and signed agreements is my best advice. And it might seem kind of unfriendly to go down that legal route with someone that you know, but it's really going to serve your business and your friendship down the track. The more you can hammer out those details before you start, the more chance you have of keeping that friendship that inspired you to start a business together in the first place. Now, lastly, truth time. Are you better off just staying friends instead of going into business together? Really, you've got to be crystal clear on that. Maybe you're not meant to create a full business together. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't support each other in other ways. Maybe you want that creative buzz and to have a good time together. So maybe you could do one-off workshops together or form a mastermind so you can build both businesses, but kind of together. You could co-work space together. You could create events together without a serious or kind of long-time commitment. One of my business besties, Victoria Gibson, we go to amazing locations like Bali, or we do spa retreats, and we host conferences, but without the pressure of being in business long-term together. So even after all this stuff, do you still really want to go into business? Because one thing to check before you do that is your money personality. When you understand how each other function when it comes to money, you're going to have really valuable information to work with when you need to make business decisions. Knowing your money personality is so powerful, and this is whether you're a solo business or if you work with others. So I've got a free quiz for you. Just go to luckybitch.com/quiz and you can find out all about your money personality. Now, my final advice is this: you can choose the right business model for you with or without a partner. You can do this. You might not need them, or it could be fun as well. But go and take that quiz right now at luckybitch.com/quiz and you'll see how you best work with money. It's your time and you're totally ready for the next step.